I put as much information as I could into the release video for this, the Fat Shark Dominator / Walksnail Avatar, whatever you want to call it. I put as much information as I could into that release video, but there were some unanswered questions left over after that video, and that's what this video is for. We are going to answer those unanswered questions, like, can you use a DJI or HD0 camera with this video transmitter? Will it bind to a Caddx Vista? And more. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. Question number 1, does it work with Betaflight OSD? I said that it worked with Betaflight OSD, but you didn't see Betaflight OSD in hardly any of the footage. And it does work with Betaflight OSD. So I've got a HDMI output from the goggles here. That's what you're looking at now. And you can see Betaflight OSD there in the lower left. You can see my throttle moving, and I can bring up the menu. Here's the full menu. And we can go in and we can see the whole Betaflight OSD. It works exactly as if it was an analog. In fact, I can even arm and disarm, and the post-flight screen is going to be there. It works exactly like it was an analog OSD. The full MSP DisplayPort functionality is there. So why didn't you see that in my video? Because the DVR doesn't record it. This is dumb, and it's a feature request that I've passed back to them. For troubleshooting purposes and so forth, we're so used to seeing it. We want to see it. And so I said, we really need that. Either as an option, like I'm 99% sure if I kill the VTX right now, you can see that the OSD stays. And that means that the OSD is being drawn by the goggle, not by the video transmitter. The video transmitter is passing back the information that's needed to draw the OSD, but the actual video feed doesn't have the OSD overlaid on it until the goggle displays it, which means that the goggle should have access to both the clean video feed and the OSD, and it should be able to, you should be able to just say in software, either record the OSD or not. Next up, can you bind it to a Caddx Vista? Surely not. Surely not, but I'll try just for you. Little shout out to Max Stranad. He came to visit me and he built those sculptures and stuff in my yard that I've been flying around recently. And he gave me one of these. This is designed to hang around your neck and like blow cool air on you, but it's also fantastic for using on the bench to keep your air units and your Vistas from overheating. Just kind of lays right in there and blows air, and it's just freaking perfect. Alrighty, Vista binding. Vista is in binding mode. Red LED. Bind button on the Fat Shark goggles. No, of course not. Even if they were both made by DJI, of course they would not let that happen. That's silly. I mean, it would be great if they did. I think DJI would sue the crap out of them. Let's see what it looks like on the inside. I would assume that these Walksnail cameras are made by Caddx, and that Walksnail makes the VTXs and the VRXs, but who knows? Let's unplug this MIPI connector. No, like on the DJI cameras, there's glue here. There's just a little blob of glue to hold it down, and there's also foam backing on the inside of the DJI cameras to keep it from coming. Oh, they got plastic. That's interesting. So that's probably what these plastic tabs here are for. That's clever. That's a good solution. Here is this is a Foxeer HD0 camera that I happen to have nearby. Let's see if the cable will plug in. No, no. Here's Walksnail on the left and Foxeer on the right. Notice that they do not have the same type of MIPI connector. Walksnail, I wonder, DJI also uses a non-standard MIPI connector. Let's see if it's the same as a Vista. All right, so now we got a DJI camera on the right. That looks mighty similar. Oh yeah, that's identical. Only one thing to do. Alrighty, moment of truth. Powering on in 3, 2, 1. Like, surely that's not going to work either. Now, a lot of people are going to be surprised if this doesn't work because they think that the MIPI standard is the MIPI standard, and if something plugs in with MIPI cable, then it should just work. But not being an expert on the MIPI standard, that's not true. In the same way that you could plug a USB device into a computer, but the computer doesn't have the drivers to run it, or maybe the manufacturer has done some like shenanigans so that it doesn't work unless it's an authorized device, right? Just because it plugs in doesn't mean it's going to work, and that certainly seems to be what we've got going on here. The DJI camera is plugged in. The Walksnail VTX is powered up. The LED on the LED on the VTX is not even on. I think it doesn't work at all when the camera is not powered up. Hang on, let me power it down. I'm going to unplug this. So if I unplug the camera entirely and power up, what happens? Yeah. No LED at all on the VTX. It won't even power up if it doesn't detect the camera. And it doesn't detect the Vista as a valid camera. Unless I broke it. In which case, let's plug the Walksnail camera back in and see what happens. Yep, it's alive. There we go. Yeah, it's alive. Okay, so no, third-party cameras won't work. HD0 cameras won't plug in at all because it's not using the same plug as them. It is using the same plug as DJI cameras, but presumably they've locked it out in software. Next question. Heat buildup. Does it overheat? To answer that question, we're going to turn off the soothing susurrus of the fan, and we're going to power this guy up without any cooling. It is at 1200 milliwatts, so let's just take it balls to the wall. And when it starts to overheat, we will get a warning in the lower right corner of the screen. It'll say the temperature, in fact. And then I guess eventually it'll shut down. By the way, I do have temperature protection turned off in the menu. Let's just double check that to be sure. If we had temperature protection turned on, yeah, standby mode is off. If we had that turned on, then when disarmed, the power would go down. Some people wondered whether that was why in my parking garage test the system disconnected when I disarmed. I did. That is not. I had that turned off. I thought of that. It's still not overheating. I'm kind of impressed. Oh, there we go. Overheating 85C. Let's see how long it goes till it shuts down. I have actually, it's been about 3 minutes, I think. Fabio will put the exact time till the overheat warning appeared, and then eventually the thing will surely shut down, and we'll let the editor do the math on that since he's got the clips and I wasn't paying attention. Thanks, Fabio. While we're waiting here for this thing to overheat and shut down and hopefully not destroy itself, there's a perfect time for me to insert just a little plug for myself. If you value the kind of content that I make here, then one of the best ways you can support me is to join my Patreon. Patreon.com is a website where you can subscribe to me for as little as $2 a month or as much as you feel like I've earned. It's totally up to you. There's a link down in the video description, and it sure would mean a lot if you want to help me, keep making content like this and say thank you. That's one of the best ways to do it. If today's the day, this is the video that puts you over the edge. You're like, damn, I'm watching a lot of Bardwell content. They're great. And if not, hey, I'll keep making it. You keep watching it. Maybe that day will come someday. Ooh, 97C. Now, somewhere around 100C is the temperature where, I'm pretty sure that electronics are starting to be unhappy. Below about 100C is, not the end of the world. Below 90C is better. But if this thing lets itself get over 100, I'll be interested. Oh, by the way, don't touch it either. These heat sinks on the outside are getting pretty hot, too. What's it going to get to? I really want to know. Will it surely it will shut down before it damages itself. I guess we're going to find out. We gotta draw the line somewhere, right? This is the only VTX I've got. I don't want to fry it. 108. Oh, it's slowing down. 109? Sheesh. Where do we draw the line? 115? It has to shut down. It can't let itself get so hot that it damages itself. That would be preposterous. So, how hot can it stand to get? It's just gonna keep going. Is that surely that's not right. Is it just F you, I'll burn myself up, but at least you'll come home? I guess I'm not sure how I feel about that. Well, we're gonna hit 115 and I'm gonna stop. That's too hot. We're gonna put this fan on it and we're gonna cool it the heck down. Watch how fast this cools it down. Okay, it's gonna take a second. All right. Well, I'll ask about that. and see what they say. Next question, how much power does the video transmitter draw? So here we are at max power, 1200 milliwatts. We're giving it 15 volts, and it looks like it's pulling in between 7 and 9 watts. Not sure if you can read that on the screen, but pulling between 7 and 9 watts. First question is that voltage dependent? So if I bring the volts down, the watts should stay the same. Well, by the way, we are powering only the VTX here, not the quad. I unplugged it from the quad. We come down to like 12 volts, still right in that 7 to 9 watt range. Here we're getting down towards the bottom of the voltage range. Okay, and if we come up to, let's say 24, 25 volts, now we're pulling a rock solid 7 watts. Oh, no, little kick there. Seems like it's more stable at around 7 watts at 6S voltage, whereas it was hopping a little. What if we reduce the output power? So let's go in here and change it down from 1200 milliwatts to 25 milliwatts. And it should go way down. Oh yeah, 4.5 watts. Okay, big drop. As for the goggles, we're pulling about 9 watts. Go figure. 9 watts at 15 volts. And I don't see why that would, oh, let's turn the output power up just in case that makes a difference. I don't think the goggles should really depend on the output power of the VTX. And now we're down to 7.5 watts. I don't know what's changed, but about 7 to 9 watts it appears. The next question we want to tackle is hard to answer, but I think we're getting closer and closer to a real answer. Is this DJI inside? And the answer to that question appears to definitively be no. The FPV WTF team has opened up the goggles and looked at the chips that are inside, and they have identified the manufacturer of the chip that does the magic. The H.264 or H.265 encoding, the LTE radio modulation that transmits data over the air, the sort of guts of the system. And the chip is not a DJI P1 chip. In fact, there's no DJI hardware anywhere in here, which, for the record, that's what Walksnail said way back when, and a lot of people didn't believe them. They seem to be right. In fact, there's even a little trolling going on, and we're not sure the reason why, that the chip that's in there has been labeled as if it was an old SoC from like 5 years ago, which it cannot possibly be for various technical reasons that I'm not prepared to, I don't even fully understand myself. But so it seems like they're obscuring what the chip actually is. It's actually probably from a company called Artisan. And they just, either they're trolling us or they're trying to, like, maybe they got the Artisan chips under the table, and now they don't want to make it obvious what they are. Because some of the FPV WTF guys reached out to Artisan and asked, can we buy some of these chips and can we make our own system? And Artisan was like, sorry, no, we're only selling to authorized partners, which apparently includes DJI and Walksnail and one other major drone manufacturer whose name isn't coming to me. So it's not DJI hardware. And in addition to that, the FPV WTF guys have looked at the firmware and they say it's not DJI. I mean, like, somewhere deep down inside, perhaps. No, I don't think we can say for sure that there isn't any DJI code anywhere in there, but at least at their initial glance, they say the software is also not based on, because they've looked at the DJI firmware and this firmware, and they say they're not the same. So there you go. It is not DJI. It is a separate system made with similar hardware. I think the thing that's been super confusing to everybody is the belief that DJI had rolled their own hardware from scratch and no one else could possibly replicate that. That's certainly a belief that I had. And it turns out they seem to have been working with manufacturing partners like Artisan. And now, for whatever reason, Artisan is making similar technology available to third parties. Walksnail. One last question. What's my opinion of this system? In my review, I gave a lot of data and I gave some subjective analysis, but I didn't give kind of a overall opinion. And part of that was because I didn't want to color the review. I wanted you to make up your own mind. But now that the review is out there and I've had a little bit more time flying on it, I'll give you my opinion. My opinion is that it has a lot of promise. My opinion is that it has the guts to succeed. If it was based on inferior hardware and so forth, then I would say there's just no chance that they're ever going to get there. But everybody I'm talking to who is experts in the type of hardware that's being used to do this say that the chip that's in here absolutely can do what we've seen DJI do with the DJI V2 system. So I think it can succeed, but will it succeed? And today, at least, it has room to improve. Today, at least, there are too many times when I fly it where I dive in somewhere and it's just like blah, blocky smears. And I'm like, something isn't right here. Drew actually made an interesting observation. He said, so I have the 19mm camera, and there's also a 14mm sized camera. And he said that they used the 14mm sized camera for the shots in the Rotor Riot video, and they were so crisp and clean that some people even accused them of actually using the onboard DVR instead of the goggle DVR. And he's like, we didn't do that. He actually speculated that there may be something different in the firmware or the tuning between the sensors on the 14. Steel also had the 14mm camera and had blurry stuff. That's all very preliminary. Watch Tommy's video. Tommy Umagod is working on a video. He was out of the country and didn't have time to do it for release. He has the micro camera. If Umagod's video is super crisp, but my video and Steel's are super blocky, that could explain it, and perhaps that's something they could fix in the future. I think we all have to remember that as impressive as DJI FPV was when it first launched, it had got a lot better over the years. And that's the hope that Walksnail, and I say Walksnail because they're doing all the heavy lifting on the firmware and the RF side. Fat Shark made a goggle. They made that. There's not much else to do there. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But my hope is that Walksnail can improve the firmware enough that it reaches a point of parity with DJI, or maybe he's better. I don't know. But at least parity, and people won't have to sort of decide. But as of today, the way the image works, I wouldn't switch to this today based on the performance that I'm seeing. I would wait and maybe switch to it in the future. That's the end of the video. Did you miss my full review? I'll put a card on screen. You can check it out if you missed my full review. It's like 45 minutes long, but there's a table of contents, so you can hopefully get the details you want. Happy flying.